Okay. Um, this is the Torah reading for September 28th, or the public reading for September 28th. The Torah reading is Deuteronomy 29:9 through chapter 30, verse 20. The prophet reading is Isaiah 2. The New Testament reading is Revelation 13, and the psalm is Psalm 21. All right, let's get into it. Start with Deuteronomy 29:9 through 30:20. And you must diligently observe the words of this covenant, so that you may succeed in all that you do. You are standing today, all of you, before Yahweh your God, your leaders, your tribes, your elders, and your officials, all the men of Israel, your little children, your women, and your aliens who are in the midst of your camp, from the choppers of your wood to the drawers of your water, in order for you to enter into the covenant of Yahweh your God, and into his oath that Yahweh your God is making with you today, in order to establish you today to himself as a people, and so that he may be for you just as God, just that he may be for you as God, just as he promised to you, and just as he swore to your ancestors, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Now, I'm not making this covenant and this oath with you alone, but with whoever is standing here with us today before Yahweh your God, and with whoever is not standing here with us today. For you know how we lived in the land of Egypt, and how we traveled through the midst of the nations that you traveled through. And you have seen their detestable things, and their idols of wood and stone, silver and gold that were among them, so that there is not among you a man or a woman or a clan or a tribe whose heart turns today from being with Yahweh our God to go to serve the gods of these nations, so that there is not among you a root sprouting poison and wormwood. And then, when he hears the words of this oath, then he will assure himself in his heart, saying, safety shall be mine, even though I go in the stubbornness of my heart, thereby destroying the well-watered land along with the parched. Yahweh will not be willing to forgive him. For by then the anger of Yahweh will smoke, and his passion against that man, and all the curses written in this scroll will descend on him, and Yahweh will blot out his name from under heaven. And Yahweh will single him out for calamity out of all the tribes of Israel, according to all the curses of the covenant written in the scroll of this Torah. And the next generation, that is, your children who will rise up after you, and the foreigner who will come from a distant land, when they will see the plagues of that land and its diseases that Yahweh has inflicted upon it, will say, all its land is brimstone and salt left by fire. None of its land will be sown, and it will not make plants sprout out, and it will not grow any vegetation. It is as the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admon and Zeboim, which Yahweh overturned in his anger and in his wrath. And all the nations will say, why has Yahweh done such a thing to this land? What caused the fierceness of this great anger? And they will say, it is because they abandoned the covenant of Yahweh, the God of their ancestors, which he made with them when he brought them out from the land of Egypt. And they went and served other gods and bowed down to them, gods whom they did not know them, and he had not allotted to them. So the anger of Yahweh was kindled against that land to bring upon it all the curses written in this scroll. And Yahweh uprooted them from their land in anger and in wrath and in great fury, and he cast them into another land, just as it is today. The hidden things belong to Yahweh our God, but the revealed things belong to us, to know and to our children forever, in order to do all the words of this Torah. And then, when all these things come upon you, the blessing and the curse that I have set before you, and you call them to mind among the nations there where Yahweh your God has scattered you, and you return to Yahweh, and you listen to his voice according to all that I am commanding you today, both you and your children, with all your heart and with all your inner self, and Yahweh your God will restore your fortunes, and he will have compassion upon you, and he will again gather you together from all the peoples where Yahweh your God has scattered you there. Even if you are outcasts at the end of the heavens, even from there Yahweh your God shall gather you, and from there he shall bring you back. And Yahweh your God will bring you to the land that your ancestors had taken possession of, and he will make you successful, and he will make you more numerous than your ancestors. And Yahweh your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your offspring to love Yahweh your God with all your heart and with all your inner self, so that you may live. And Yahweh your God will put all these curses on your enemies and on those who hate you, on those who harassed you. And you will again listen to the voice of Yahweh, and you will do all his commandments that I am commanding you today. And Yahweh your God will make you prosperous in all your undertakings, and in the fruit of your livestock, and in the fruit of your ground abundantly. For Yahweh will again rejoice over you, just as he rejoiced over your ancestors. He will do this if you listen to the voice of Yahweh your God by keeping his commandment and his statutes written in the scroll of this Torah, and if you return to Yahweh your God with all your heart and with all your inner self. For this commandment that I'm commanding you today is not too wonderful for you, and it is not too far from you. It is not in the heavens, so that you might say, who will go up for us to the heavens and get it for us and cause us to hear it? so that we may do it. And it is not beyond the sea, so that you might say, who will cross for us to the other side of the sea and take it for us and cause us to hear it so that we may do it? But the word is very near you, even in your mouth and in your heart, so that you may do it. See, I'm setting before you today life and prosperity, and death and disaster. What I am commanding you today is to love Yahweh your God by going in his ways and by keeping his commandments and his statutes and his regulations. And then you will live and you will become numerous, and Yahweh your God will bless you in the land where you are going. However, if your heart turns aside and you do not listen, and you are lured away and you bow down to other gods and you serve them, I declare to you today that you will certainly perish. You will not extend your time on the land that you are crossing the Jordan to go there to take possession of it. I invoke as a witness against you today the heaven and the earth. Life and death I have set before you, blessing and curse. So choose life so that you may live, you and your offspring, by loving Yahweh your God, by listening to his voice, and by clinging to him. For he is your life and the length of your days, in order for you to live on the land that Yahweh swore to your ancestors, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give to them. Okay? The prophet reading is Isaiah 2. The word that Isaiah, son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall happen in the future of the days, the mountain of the house of Yahweh shall be established. It will be among the highest of the mountains, and it shall be raised from the hills. All of the nations shall travel to him. Many peoples shall come, and they shall say, come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he may teach us part of his ways, and let us walk in his paths. For the Torah or instruction shall go out from Zion, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. He shall judge between, a Torah or an instruction shall go out from Zion, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. He shall judge between the nations, and he shall arbitrate for many peoples. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. A nation shall not lift up sword against a nation, and they shall not learn war again. House of Jacob, come, let us walk in the light of Yahweh. For you have forsaken your people, house of Jacob, because they are full from the east, and of soothsayers like the Philistines, and they make alliances with the offspring of foreigners. And its land is filled with silver and gold, and there is no end to its treasures. And its land is filled with horses, and there is no end to its chariots. Its land is filled with idols. They bow down to the work of their hands, to what they have made with their fingers. So humanity is humbled. Everyone is humbled, and you must not forgive them. Enter into the rock and hide yourself in the dust from the presence of the terror of Yahweh and from the glory of his majesty. The haughty eyes of humanity will be brought low, and the pride of everyone will be humbled, and Yahweh alone will be exalted on that day. For there is a day for Yahweh of hosts against all of the proud and the lofty, and against all that is lifted up and humble, and against all the lofty and lifted up cedars of Lebanon, and against all the large trees of Bashan, and against all the high mountains, and against all the lofty hills, and against every kind of high tower, and against every kind of fortified wall, and against all the ships of Tarshish, and against all the ships of desire. And the haughtiness of the people shall be humbled, and the pride of everyone shall be brought low, and Yahweh alone will be exalted on that day. And the idols shall pass away entirely, and they will enter into the caves of the rocks and into the holes of the ground from the presence of the terror of Yahweh and from the glory of his majesty, when he rises to terrify the earth. On that day, humanity will throw away its idols of silver and its idols of gold, which they made for it to worship, to the rodents and to the bats, to enter into the crevices of the rocks and into the clefts of the crags from the presence of the terror of Yahweh and from the glory of his majesty, when he rises to terrify the earth. Turn away from humanity, who has breath in its nostrils, for by what is it esteemed? Okay. New Testament reading is Revelation 13. And I saw coming up out of the sea a beast that had 10 horns and 7 heads, and on its horns 10 royal headbands, and on its head a blasphemous name. And the beast that I saw was similar to a leopard, and its feet were like a bear's, and its mouth was like the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave it his power and his throne and great authority. And one of its heads appeared as though slaughtered to death, and its fatal wound had been healed. And the whole earth was astonished and followed after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? And who is able to make war with him?" And a mouth was given to him, speaking great things and blasphemies. And authority to act was given to him for 42 months. And he opened his mouth for blasphemies toward God, to blaspheme his name and his dwelling, those who live in heaven. And it was given to him to make war with the saints and to conquer them. And authority was given to him over every tribe and people and language and nation. And all those who live on the earth will worship him, everyone whose name is not written from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who was slaughtered. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. If anyone is going into captivity he goes. If anyone is to be killed by the sword he is to be killed. Here is the patient endurance and the faith of the saints. And I saw another beast coming up from the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he was speaking like a dragon. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast on behalf of him, and he causes the earth and those who live in it to worship the first beast whose fatal wound had been healed. And he performs great signs, so that he even causes fire from heaven to come down to the earth before people. And he deceives those who live on the earth because of the signs that it has been granted to him to perform on behalf of the beast, telling those who live on the earth to make an image to the beast who has the wound of the sword and yet lived. And it was given to him to put breath into the image of the beast, in order that the image of the beast both spoke and caused that all those, unless they worship the image of the beast, should be killed. And he causes all people, the small and the great, the rich and the poor, and the free and the slave, that they give them a mark on their right hand or on their forehead, and that no one was able to buy or to sell except the one who had the mark, the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. The one who has understanding, let him calculate the number of the beast, for it is a man's number, and his number is 666. Okay, Psalm 21. O Yahweh, the king will rejoice in your strength, and how greatly he will delight in your help. You have given him the desire of his heart and have not withheld the request of his lips, Selah. For you meet him with blessings of good things. You set on his head a crown of fine gold. He asked life from you, and you gave it to him, length of days forever and ever. His honor is great because of your help. Splendor and majesty you have bestowed upon him, for you set on him blessings forever. You make him glad with the joy of your presence, because the king trusts Yahweh, and through the steadfast love of the Most High, he shall not be moved. Your hand will find all your enemies. Your right hand will find those who hate you. You will make them like your fiery furnace at the time of your appearance. Yahweh will swallow them in his wrath, and fire will consume them. You will destroy their offspring from the earth, and their descendants from among the children of humankind. Though they have plotted evil against you, though they have planned a scheme, they will not prevail, for you will turn them to flight. You will aim arrows on your bowstrings at their faces. Be exalted, O Yahweh, in your strength, and we sing and praise your power. All right.